Hey, good morning. Yes, it is. It is Saturday, August 24th. So, I thought today we'd talk a little bit about turning challenges into opportunities and how we can spot them and how we can if we're not looking for them. All right, so stay tuned. This ought to be fun. Alrighty, welcome back. My name is Eric, and yes, this is the weekend. This is Saturday, August 24th. We do the weekday, Monday through Friday, and that's available on podcast as well as what I call self-help type things is also available under, personal development on podcast. So what are we talking about this morning? We're talking about how if you're closed off, all right, and even if the best business idea or best stock market buy to sell or the best this and that could be in your face, but if you're not looking for it or you don't know how to look for it, you'll never capitalize on it. And this can be anything in life. It doesn't have to be business. See, when people look at challenges, it kind of has a negative connotation to it, right? Oh boy, it's a challenge. So now we have to, it's like climbing them fake rock things with somebody with a rope on it, so if you fall. Most people are going to look at that and say, ain't happening. At least that's my age. Ain't happening. I get enough challenges during the day, and some challenges are just getting up in the morning and putting my clothes on. But people, different strokes for different folks, right? So, a lot of times, especially when I was younger, if you gave me a challenge, it would just like watch me. And I could knock it out because I loved the challenge. I wanted to be successful at everything I did. And that was part of my problem, when I was younger, is that there were so many challenges that it started becoming hard to try to be good at all of them. There's very few people in life that can be great at everything. We're going to suck at some things. We're going to be really good at some other things. And we're going to have a blast on other things, other challenges. But what I'm talking about is your mindset. It's not actually being good at everything, all right? So you have to pick and choose throughout life, your life, of what it is you want to achieve. Now, what I have found is that if you want to become good, if not great at something, you first need to have someone show you the right way, okay? And then you practice. And the more practice you get, the better you get, right? And it could be a simple task of a do-it-yourselfer at home. Let's say you decided to take the garage and turn it over into a nice workshop, all right? And part of the process is hanging drywall, okay? I could knock out hanging drywall in short order. When I was younger, it's a little harder now. I do have a drywall machine that holds it up now so you can put the screws in. But back then I didn't. I just one-handed it and put screws in. I became very proficient at hanging drywall. But where I didn't become proficient at was doing the taping and spackling the mud. And I had friends that could run with just the regular paper, and they had a machine they had in their hand was full of, and they would be on stilts running down ceilings, doing the gaps. And I just got it in my head, it's something I really didn't want to do. And these guys even got me the tape that has the little squares that holds it, And to this day, I still don't know how to mud. Because it just never, it wasn't anything I wanted to do or cared to be proficient at. Because when you start doing that, it's like carpentry. My grandfather always told me, he said, you can spot a good carpenter just by looking at how well he covers up his mistakes. And I'm like, Gramp, that's not a good carpenter if you got to cover up his mistakes. Yes, it is. Because most of your older homes are not square anymore. So you can't just throw up like you would on a new construction. And you have more problems and headaches in an older construction than you do a newer one. And a lot of young carpenters don't know how to cover their mistakes. They're used to having everything plumb, square, and knocking it out, right? So that's what distinguished a good carpenter. My grandfather was a good carpenter because everything he touched looked great. And I can remember when I was younger, I was really into animals, all right? Not keeping them, although we did. But I wanted to build a birdhouse with my grandfather. Or I wanted to build a birdhouse, but when I was that age, said, I'm not letting you use the power tools. You're going to have to use the handsaw and everything else. So I said, fine. And I was thinking, like a little birdhouse with a little roof and a little hole with a little peg so they could get in. My grandfather thought it would be a great time to do something together as a project. And I'll tell you, by the time we got done, instead of having the one little birdhouse with the one little hole for the barn swallows, and we had a motel. It had 50 or 60. It was 4-tier high. It was huge. It just come up just like a pyramid. But that's how my grandfather was. When he took on a project that he loved, the bigger the better, right? And that birdhouse still sits in my grandparents' old house out back. And him and I did that when I was 10. So that's 52 years ago. And he made it out of, not pressure treated, he just made it out of plywood and some cedar boards. He was a positive influence on me because he taught me how to keep an open mind and how to, instead of looking at a challenge in a negative light, because if you face a challenge and you allow your mind to go to a negativity side, it's going to be one that you're not going to want to do, right? Whereas if you look at a challenge as a pathway to achieving greatness, because what goes on when you face a challenge? Well, for one, you're not looking at it as a roadblock, right? We're looking at it as a challenge. So how do we digest the challenge? Is, well, okay, what's your end goal? What ways can we go about trying to accomplish this challenge? See, your mind gets to working and you start thinking outside the box of, okay, if I try this, which nobody else has tried, it just might work. And by training your mind and your body to react to challenges in a positive way, you'll be open to different things that come along in your life. Having a relationship is a challenge. And finding the right balance. You know, the balance between work, home life, and personal development and self-help. That's a challenge. And you don't want to waste that. You don't want to waste that. You know, my grandfather, when he'd see me feeling sorry for myself, he'd say, there's people much worse off than you that are still smiling and still struggling and still trying to get ahead. And that resonated with me because I had a classmate named Scotty. And Scotty had, I'm trying to think, he was the same age as me, but he could no longer walk. He had metal braces on his legs. And every year he kept getting worse and worse. And by the time we got to be juniors in high school, we were wheeling him from class to class and helping him in the bathroom and that. But he was in so much pain. But he never gave up. He always smiled. I could still hear his laugh. You know, he lived until he was in his mid to late 30s. They said that he wouldn't make it out of teenager years, but he did. And it progressively got worse and worse and worse. And there I was, somebody that may be on the overweight side, but physically pretty good shape. And anytime I started to feel sorry for myself, I would look at Scotty. And that smile and that laugh and wanting to even play basketball. We'd take him out with the wheelchair on the court so that he could shoot baskets. He wanted to try everything. Everything was exciting to him. Because by then he knew what his life was going to be, and it was not going to be a long one. You know, I always said I don't know if I could do it if I were him. And you could feel sorry for yourself and close yourself off because you have a disability of some kind. Or you can bask in the glory and be that shining light for everybody else to try to achieve that you have achieved. And that is greatness. I mean, you see Scotty all the time around, right? Watch the Special Olympics and watch people with no legs still run. Still do things that I can't do. It's all in your mindset. It's all in what is it that I want to achieve. And that's what they've done. They've looked at their life and they can do one of two things. They can curl up and die, or they can come out fighting. And the sad thing is, there's too many of them that curl up and die. Whether it's a vet coming back from Afghanistan or Iraq that's been, disabled, to someone born with a condition. How is it they can achieve greatness, but the person that has got everything going for them, health, family, money's not an issue, still can't achieve anything? It's because of the mindset. The mindset looks at a challenge in a negative way instead of looking at it as an opportunity. These folks that are achieving greatness are looking at the opportunity. How can I partake by thinking outside the box? Now, I'm trying to think of what they call that. Maybe you guys know. But I saw one runner that had no legs, okay? And they were kind of like backward shoe type thing, but it was like a springboard. And that allowed that person to run. Now, had that person not been thinking outside the box of how to run, that may never have come into play, right? Or maybe there was somebody that invented that said, I think this would help people like this achieve, maybe not the way I would achieve, because I've got legs. But that doesn't mean that they can't partake in stuff that I'm doing. You don't want to limit yourself. And that's what you do, is you don't limit yourself to having that freedom of expression, of that freedom of becoming great at something. Because you get so tied up in the day-to-day stuff that next thing you know, you're just basically getting up in the morning, going to work, coming home, going to bed, getting back up, and that's your life cycle. You're not doing anything that's challenging. And you resolve to this being your life. Don't let 20 or 30 years go by to finally start doing it. I'm not saying you can't do it later in life, but the earlier you figure this out, the better off you will be. So on that note, you guys have a great Saturday and enjoy yourself and stay safe. On that note, we'll talk to you later.